Hello there, I am Man in Yellow and welcome to a video in which I want to talk a bit about the upcoming update for Phobies. In this update we will be getting both balance changes, new Phobies and some other changes to some of the systems, so that is quite exciting. A lot of these changes are actually already in the game, they are up now. However, the most exciting of the changes, at least to a lot of people, will not be going live until October 1st, which is in 10 or 11 days from this video. And that change is that we are getting 9 new Phobies in the game. And that is quite exciting because it has been nearly a full year by now since we got new Phobies. I believe the last time was actually October 2nd, if I'm not wrong. I think that was when we got like Billy and Doc Holiday. So it's basically a year ago that we last saw new Phobies to the game. But yeah, we're just gonna go through this. As you can see here, they write a bunch of stuff about Benny's brother Lenny couldn't wait, and I think that's actually because they, by a mistake, released Lenny a little bit early and they just decided to roll with it. Lenny is one of the new Phobies which you can already get in the game out of the new Phobies here, and I actually have a picture of it here. This is Lenny. It is a small 2-key turret with 1050 health and 325 attack, and of course 1 movement and 2 range like turrets are. This Phobie is not insane or anything, but it is pretty good purely because it is a 2-key with range. It's a 2-key turret, just like Unicorn. And as we all know, Unicorn is really rather good. Now, the unfortunate thing in my eyes is that I don't really see myself ever picking that over Unicorn. At least it would be like very rare for me to do so, because you are essentially only getting 100 more health. You are losing 35 attack and the ability to do traps. You do get a bit of leech, but that's not really super relevant in my eyes. So I think this is, generally speaking, just worse than Unicorn. But Unicorn is also really strong, so that doesn't really make Lenny bad or anything. It just means that it's kind of outclassed for that role in my eyes. That doesn't mean that Lenny is bad though. This Phobie is pretty decent in my opinion. I would say this is like a good Phobie. It's not in any like strong or anything like that, but it's pretty good in my eyes. And maybe Unicorn will be nerfed at some point and that will make Lenny a better choice, or maybe Unicorn gets reworked. Also, you may choose to use both. That could totally be a thing that you do. You go Unicorn 1-key into Lenny into a 4-key, or Bank into a 7-key. So that could totally be a thing that you do. I also have some quick footage of it just attacking from one of the Discord members here, if it will allow me to do this. Okay, just decided to go over that. And I think they hit the art pretty well. It is a new artist compared to what we used to have with the last Phobies, because they changed the team around. I think this looks a lot like what we otherwise would have. It looks a lot like Benny, which is supposed to be his brother. And as you can see, it attacks by like unrolling itself and hitting you with its face, which is pretty cute, I think. This is just a pretty cool design for a little Phobie, I think. It's not a super exciting one to see, but I will make a video about all of the new Phobies once we know them, which will probably be October 1st or October 2nd, depending on how quickly people get them and we get to see them. But Lenny is pretty exciting. Other than that, we also have some hints towards how the new Phobies may look, because they posted this here. I also have it in here, I believe, where we can see Lenny is sitting down here and we have a bunch of other Phobies. So there's a High Five variant down here, 3 Jeeves variant, an Octonauty variant, a Sabian variant, a Maggie variant, and some completely different Phobie that we haven't seen before. That is what it looks like here, at least. So that will be pretty interesting once we get to see them, I think. Other than the new Phobies that are coming October 1st, we are also getting large maps and small maps. We are getting 2 of each. With, actually, I don't know how many small ones we are getting. That doesn't say that here. But we are getting 1 big map with like city theme and 1 cemetery themed one. So that is also exciting, as maps change how you play the game a lot. Hopefully they are good maps, because some of the most recent maps had a couple problems in my eyes. They were still way better than what we used to get, but they could have been a little bit better. Then we have some changes to some systems here. Gold season rewards. So gold season rewards had the XP multiplied by 2, so double. We have higher chance of getting new phobies from them, and then the gold season packs gives a bunch of extra upgrade cards now, depending on which league you are in. So these changes just make the gold pack worth more, essentially. Personally, I still think they have to reduce the amount of games required for gold pack. It is just way, way, way too high. There is, I would be willing to bet money there is not a single person on the developer team that plays Phobies who gets the gold pack every season, or even in most seasons. It is way too many games to have to go through. It is 6 games a day, and you only get tiers for 5 of the games. So it doesn't even make sense, compared to the other systems in the game. They just need to reduce the amount of games required. I think they are scaring away casual players way too much. So, not really the changes that I wanted to see, but at least it's a positive change for them. Then we have some matchmaking changes. I don't really know what these actually do, to be honest. I mean, I know what the second one does. I don't know what this really means. They reduce the impact of bad faith behavior for fairer battles. I'm not sure what that actually means, but whatever. And then we have the league resets, which now mean that they only affect players at Sum of All Fears 3. So people will not be getting reset and have to play against Doomsday constantly, which is what is happening up until now. You get reset and then you have to play against people who have 1/10 of your levels and experience, which is just not fair. Well, not 1/10, but you get what I mean. People are just way under level. They have no chance of winning against someone who has 10 levels on them. Then we have a change to the phobia acceleration. So you can now use coffee to level up any phobia by a number of levels up to a vault's average. I don't really care about that. I only used coffee for packs, so for me that doesn't matter much. I don't know, this may be useful to someone. And finally we have the balance changes. These balance changes are, in my eyes, really quite disappointing, to be honest. We're just gonna go through them quickly here. So for Frosty, they had lowered the damage from 500 normal damage and 500 electrical damage to 450 and 450. This is already live in the game, so as many of the other things. You can actually just go look at it here. You can see now it is 450, 450, down from 500. This change is a terrible nerf in my opinion, and that's not because Frosty didn't need a nerf, it definitely needed a nerf, but this is essentially them saying we have no idea why Frosty is good. They don't understand why the phobia is good, which is a bit weird because it should be really quite obvious. The phobia is overpowered because this ability is ridiculous. That's the problem with the phobia. This needs to be 2-lock. That is the nerf that this needed. I don't care if this is 500 attack damage or 550 or 450 or 400. This phobia is still going to be incredibly powerful as long as this ability is allowed to be like this. It needs to be 2-lock. There's nothing else you can change about it to make it fair. And still keep the unit usable, of course. It just needs to be 2-lock. There is no other change they can make to this. And quite frankly, every single player that you have talked with that is above Sum of All Fears will tell you that is the nerf that it needs to have. Maybe above Sum of All Fears 2. It's very easy to just get to Sum of All Fears. But everyone who has experience with the game and know what's going on at higher ranks in the meta know that the change this phobia needs is to the ability. Because the problem isn't that it does a lot of damage, which it also does, but the problem is that it turns half your team off for 2 full turns, and it doesn't really feel very counterable. So it is just very good. Now that said, this does mean that there are some phobies that it becomes less powerful against, it can no longer just 2-hit Evo, which is a pretty big deal. But at the end of the day, even when you look across all of those that it maybe can't 2-hit anymore or deals a bit less damage to, it's still good against mechanical phobies, so it's not really a big deal. And the ability is still incredibly powerful, so Frosty will remain the second best phobia in the game. I can already say that now without having played against it after the nerf. It's still going to be incredibly powerful. Then we have a buff to blue, which is a buff to the debuff when you kill it with a phobia. So you can see here, this is now 3 turns. The surprise is still 2 turns. The deflated that is now 3 turns is for when you kill blue. So if you kill it with like a klepto, it gets debuffed for 3 turns now instead of only 2, which is a pretty big deal. So that makes blue a little bit better. It's still not going to be like an insane unit or anything, but it's a nice little buff. Then we have Mildred going up with 60 more damage. That again doesn't really solve the issue with Mildred. Mildred's big issue right now is that it just gets hit by a Furkin Leprechaun and then you are incredibly sad. Its other issue is that stuff like Smiley is just really annoying to play against if you are playing Mildred, and there are a couple other things you can do against it still, like other things. But yeah, at least it's a buff for him, so whatever, I can't really complain about that. It does mean that it's able to one-hit Corn and do a little bit more damage against some other phobies, but it's still not going to change the fact that Mildred isn't an insane phobia or anything. It's still decently usable. If you are Big She, it's like almost overpowered for some reason. If you're any other player, it's just decent. But yeah, it's a nice little damage buff. Then we have Gargles going up with 100 health and Trivolta going up with 100 health. Those don't really matter that much, but they at least make them slightly better, I guess. Trivolta is still not going to be a good phobie. That's just how it is. This phobie just makes no sense. The actual body of the phobie says that this wants to sit away from the opponent and hit them without going into combat, and the ability tells you that you have to go into the middle of the opponent's team. So yeah, that just doesn't make any sense. As for Gargles, it's just a little bit of more health. This is still just a kind of niche unit that you use for the petrify ability on certain maps, and that's about all that Gargles is. Sometimes you'll use it just to have a flyer when you want a dimensional flyer for some reason. So the balance changes don't really do that much here, in my opinion. I could have seen some much better ones here. Quite frankly, I could sit down at their computer, go into the numbers for like half an hour, and I could make better changes than this. But this is what we get at least, so it's something. Could be a lot better though, in my opinion. Frosty should be 1 more lock. Cupcake should be 250 buff. And there are a ton of phobies that should be buffed. So that's the changes I would like to see. Nerfs to Cupcake and Frosty. And then there are like, I don't know, 30 or 40 phobies which could need a buff right now. So maybe you buff those a little bit instead of only doing 3 or 4 here. And maybe also buff the things that are actually problematic for them and nerf the things that are problematic for them. Because like when we see this, it's just like, okay, they don't know what they're doing. That's the vibe we get from this, at least as a high-ranking player. That's like what we see when we look at this kind of balance change, which is not a good look, of course. But hey, it's not all that. We are getting 9 new phobies, so that's very exciting. That I don't want to like only go for the bad stuff, because this is very exciting to me. I think especially this one in the background looks really, really cool. And I actually also kind of like the Maggie version. Looks like it's like prepared to suck blood or something, which is pretty cool. I imagine this will be like a lower rarity one, but we don't know. I think it will be a 3-key most likely, because we know that there will be a 3-key monster. You can figure out exactly which races there will be by looking at like the blank cards in here. So you can see this blank card is between 2 monsters, which means this is a monster, which is the 3-key that we are getting. So I would be willing to bet that this is the Maggie variant. This up here is definitely the Lenny that you already saw, because we just know that. And then we have, like, this is either a undead or a dimensional. This is a undead, and it's either a uncommon or a rare. And this is a dimensional, which we know already will be an ultra rare. And here's an undead that will either be a rare or an ultra rare. Here's a dimensional that will be an ultra rare, and you can kind of like figure out what it will be that way. But of course, we have no idea what the actual phobies will be like yet. So I will obviously make an update on that when they come out. But there is not really any information on what they will do outside of Lenny, which we already have in the game. Anyways, though, pretty much all I had to say for this one. I hope that they will do a bigger balance patch again at some point. And I also hope that they will make some more system changes. But getting new phobies is very exciting, so I am not really gonna complain over this update. It's still like a good update for the game. I just think it could have been way better when it comes to like balance changes and some of the like systems being maybe changed a little bit. Also, I should mention this. I don't think this was in the update like notes that we just looked through, but now whenever you open the middle jack, you always get 20 coffee, I believe. I think I saw that on the Steam, because the update notes are for some reason different on the Steam and in the forum. But that's a small upside also for coffee. That was all for this one though, so I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, and if you have any comments or anything like that for this, feel free to leave them in the comments. Bye.